Los Angeles police say the mother, sister, and two nephews of former National Football League star Kermit Alexander were shot dead in their home today. Witnesses said that two gunmen walked in the family bungalow and opened fire. They didn't say anything, said a 13-year-old boy who escaped by hiding in a closet. He said they just came in shooting.
His name was Tiqouan Cox, a.k.a. Lil Fee, and he was a member of one of Los Angeles's, perhaps the largest black street gang, the Rollin 60s Crips. And he's definitely one of the guys that made Rollin 60s feared in the streets of Los Angeles. Tiqouan Cox's trip to death row started actually all the way back in 1983 in Watts at a party for a 21-year-old girl on her birthday.
The police say nearly half of the Los Angeles area is now gangland.
This infamous crime came just on the heels of the successful completion of the 1984 Olympics in the peak of Reagan era and the Cold War. It was the time when, the show you guys are watching right now, snowfall, when those events were happening. And that was the same time when Los Angeles was replacing Miami as the cocaine importation capital in the United States. And it was a time when gang violence went from just in certain neighborhoods in LA to being endemic around the city. Crews like Third World, Whitey Enterprise, and Ozone were blamed for 25 murders in 8 months.
Too many people getting killed.
The white man trying to make money off of it. You see they report?
Welcome to 63rd Street, home turf of the Rolling 60s, part of the largest street gang in all of Los Angeles, a gang called the Crips.
Or the menace to the community, because the community means terrorism, but nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? To us, it's just like, hey.
Meet Creeper, Lowdown, Little Creeper, and Mr. E-Bone.
I mean, we've been on TV, we've been in the newspapers. Everywhere we go, we take over.
It's just like we're a nightmare on somebody's street.
Plague.
They'd like you to believe that they're the worst thing to hit civilization since Attila the Hun, because on these streets, reputation is everything, whether it's earned or not.
That's what it is. After you hear so much about it, it gets into you if it's not already there. You know? It's like I said.
Now what do you do? What do you do that makes people so fearful?
We can walk into a place and that'll make people fearful just knowing that it's Rolling 60s. And what it carries behind it.
What does it carry behind it?
It carries dirt, carries murder, carries whatever you want.
Treachery.
After a successful NFL career, Kermit Alexander had come back to the town that birthed him, and specifically the Watts neighborhood. He had grown up in the Jordan Downs projects, and he started a youth football league. And one of his most promising students was the future murderer of his family, Tiqouan Lil Fee Cox. Kermit Alexander remembered him from his time in his youth football league, but Lil Fee didn't play well with others. A court psychiatrist testified during his murder trial of Alexander's family later on that by the age of 12, Tiqouan Cox had had up to 15 separate experiences that each alone would qualify him for having PTSD. Tiqouan Cox himself said that at a very young age he learned how to, quote, block out his own thoughts. But of course, the real question is, who were they going to kill and why? Because it wasn't intended to be Kermit Alexander's family. And it goes back to a birthday party in Watts in 1983. Young lady was turning 21 at a bar that goes on Vermont. A fight broke out amongst some guys there at the bar, and someone fired a shot. This girl on her 21st birthday was hit and paralyzed. So she began, like anybody would do, a lawsuit against the bar, assuming they had liability insurance. After all, she was gonna have to be cared for in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. Now, the bar was owned by a guy named Ossie Jackson, AKA Diamond Jack, who had various arrests that make it appear that he was some sort of, maybe a gangster, numbers guy, maybe drugs. The year was 1984, and the Rolling 60s Crips were getting heavily involved in selling crack cocaine, of course, and there was a raid on 10th Avenue, the infamous dime block on September 27th, and they found a 17-year-old gang member with a .30 caliber M1 carbine, which he told the police came from Lil Fee, Tiqouan Cox, and this is what broke the case open. The prosecution's version of events is that he put a $60,000 bounty on the 21-year-old girl, and another Rolling 60s Crip named Charles Darren Wiliams took him up on the offer. Apparently, though, none of the gang members ever implicated Diamond Jack, and he's never been charged with anything, though the lawsuit was dropped after Kermit Alexander's family was killed. I won't go into the details of the murders, it really doesn't matter, but to quote the song Drive By Miss Daisy from MC8, they ran through the rooms and went pop, pop, pop. When it was over, 6-year-old and 12-year-old boys were dead. Kermit Alexander's 59-year-old mother and his sister were also all killed. A fifth potential victim, I think a 15 or 16-year-old nephew, kind of wrestled with one of the gunmen, and he was the sole survivor. If you're interested in this story, you should really get Kermit Alexander's book, which is called In the Valley of the Shadow of Death. It just came out a few years ago. It's has a lot of information about not just the case, but Lil Fee's childhood, and it actually kind of has I won't say a happy ending, but a happy last chapter for Kermit Alexander, who went on to get married late in life and adopted a bunch of orphans from Haiti. So kind of powerful is one of the things that moved me about the story. Here you have a lost and broken child like Tiqouan Cox, who's now on death row, and because of what he did, 5 orphans from Haiti were adopted by an NFL player. So life is very strange that way. Tiquon, Lil Fee Cox, had a interesting childhood. On the one hand, his mother was an alcoholic and a convicted bank robber, and he didn't see his father much, but he was raised by his great-grandmother, a former actress who owned several houses, and according to the district attorney, was practically a millionaire. Cox had a $10,000 T-bill in his college fund by the age of 13, played in Little League and belonged to the Boy Scouts. When he was 13, he ran away, complaining that his great-grandmother was too restrictive, and then he popped up wearing gang colors. Not long after that, shortly before his 15th birthday, he knocked a woman out of her car and went on a 25-mile high-speed chase with the police after serving 2.5 years in the California Youth Authority, the infamous... Okay, Charles Darren Wiliams, the guy that's supposedly or was convicted of arranging it all. He was a Rolling 60s Crip, and he said that he had developed a ½ ounce a day crack cocaine habit in the months leading up to the crime. Court-appointed psychiatrists backed this up, and one of the women that drove the van that was used in the killing testified that she saw him spend about $40,000 in the brief period of time after the murder. There was also a car dealer that testified he paid for a car in cash. Darren Charles Wiliams, C-Dub, the man who probably brokered the deal and received the bulk of the cash for the hit, he's the only one eligible for parole, theoretically, though it doesn't come up till 2027, and he's already been turned down once. October 1988, San Quentin Prison, California's death row. Stanley Tookie Wiliams, founder of the Crips, walks past a shower, and a fellow Crip lunges out, stabs him in the neck with a 4.5-inch knife, and throws it. When Tookie is taken in for medical treatment, his only statement is, "I don't know what happened, I don't remember."
In his written denial, the governor notes Wiliams never owned up to his crimes or showed any real remorse for murders carried out by the Crips. That's the gang he co-founded. He writes, "Without an apology and atonement, there can be no redemption."
So the reason Lil Fee stabbed Tookie is that Tookie, who up until that time was the, shot caller of the Crips, told Lil Fee to stab Darren Charles Wiliams, C-Dub, his co-defendant, because he had snitched in the case, but Cox refused to do it, and in fact stabbed Tookie instead, and then there was a separation of the Crips on death row that continued for some period of time. And then in 2000, Lil Fee did something that made him you know, in a way, public enemy number one within death row. So in 2000, he led another Crip named No-No and a Samoan Crip in a, not so much an escape attempt from prison, but they broke out of death row and they tried to get into where the guards were. Of course, the plot was thwarted. They did get through a fence, but this is where the story, from a psychological standpoint, takes another level of interest to me. Tiqouan Cox got put inside the hole within death row, and his internal energy and his spirit of fighting against the system was so strong, he refused all his personal possessions. He refused a TV, he even refused a mattress. And for some years, he lived, I guess, in an empty cement cell. The guard said he never turned or rarely turned his lights off, and he worked out incessantly all day, burpees, push-ups, sit-ups, and they said they barely ever saw him go to sleep. You know, that's the kind of energy that makes somebody become a billionaire or the president of the United States. And who knows what he would have been if whatever went on in his childhood and on the streets there in the mid-'80s in LA wouldn't have happened to him. But Tiqouan Cox sat in the hole on death row, no mattress, no TV, for many years. So Tiqouan Cox is only in his mid-50s now, and though he's on death row and serving this long term, there's a push to let elderly prisoners out because they're so expensive and they so rarely reoffend. So who knows, in maybe 10 or 15 more years, Lil Fee will be back on the streets. And again, if you're more interested in this case, and you should read Kermit Alexander's book, In the Valley of the Shadow of Death. There's some documents about Tiqouan Cox growing up. It explains how, you know, becoming a snitch in a case like this or turning against your co-defendants always doesn't play out too well. A guy named Horace Burns, you know, he was probably the getaway driver and he tried to blame it on everyone else. He got life too. He didn't go to death row, but he got life. So he spent the last 30 years moving from prison to prison, probably in PC, and he's not in PC till they find out.
You can stop gang banging, but you still gonna always have Crip in your heart. And there's trouble wherever you go, regardless if you're Crippin' or not. That's right. Just like these innocent people that's getting shot. They just staying in Crip neighborhoods or blob neighborhoods, and they getting blasted on.
Yeah, kill to be killed, that's all it is. They come through here, blast me back. Yeah, if I get killed, this is one nigga gone. This is one nigga gone.
And now it's